Tonight on Ukraine Today, Kremlin-style human trafficking. Russia uses young women from poor countries to build deadly drones. What's happening in Russia's Kursk region? Russians shout about victory, but Ukraine forces show footage of destroyed Russian troops inside Kursk. A bad choice, a terrible end. The son of a top CIA official died fighting against Ukraine on Russia's side. 15 minutes of real diplomacy? What Ukraine's and Americans' presidents talk about during the historic meeting at the Vatican. A decisive week. Will the United States stay involved in ending Russia's war against Ukraine? And unconditional ceasefire with conditions. Russia's latest official position, explained by Minister Lavrov. All this and more, right now on Ukraine Today. Hi there, we are from Ukraine. My name is Volodymyr Robchun. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get started. Ukrainian special forces destroyed a group of Russian Marines deep inside Russia's Kursk region. Some Russian soldiers were taken prisoner. According to Ukraine's Special Operation Forces, missions on enemy territory are ongoing. This happens while Russian authorities claim fighting in Kursk region is over. Ukraine's military says this statement is just a propaganda. The defense forces continue operations in certain areas of Kursk. Meanwhile, Russia has officially admitted for the first time North Korea troops are fighting against Ukraine. Can you believe it? Valery Gerasimov, chief of Russia's general staff, reported to Putin that North Korean soldiers were operating together with Russians in Kursk.
I should like to make a special mention of the participation in the liberation of the border areas of Kursk region of servicemen of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, who, in accordance with the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership between our countries, provided significant assistance in defeating the armored grouping that had invaded Ukraine. Soldiers and officers of the Korean People's Army, fulfilling combat tasks shoulder to shoulder with Russian servicemen in the course of repelling the Ukrainian invasion, showed high professionalism, fortitude, courage, and heroism in battle.
From April 2023 to May 2024, Russia recruited over 1,500 foreign mercenaries for its war against Ukraine, British intelligence reports. Most came from South and East Asia, former Soviet republics and African countries. They signed up for money and for the chance to get Russian citizenship. But often it's just modern-day slavery. Russia even forces girls from poor countries to work at drone factories. Interpol is now investigating these crimes. Full report right now.
Alabuga was originally intended to be an industrial production technopark in the Republic of Tatarstan, but it has become a factory of death and a legitimate target for the Ukrainian armed forces, as instead of developing new technologies, it is engaged in the production of Iranian drones. Legends are told about the working conditions here in Russia. On a territory of 4,000 hectares, the Kremlin has gathered several thousand young students from all over the country.
Alabuga Polytechnic is an institution where the best personnel for Russian industry are trained.
However, the youth in Putin'S technopark were not gathered for education at all. It's just that the students have very well developed fine motor skills, which are extremely necessary for assembling Iranian Shahed drones. As a result, mass production of these drones was established in Alabuga. Instead of classes, students are offered to assemble the main weapon of Kremlin terror, day and night.
Yes.
They all study for free, but they have a targeted three-party agreement, according to which they are obliged to work for 3 years. And from the second year, they start working off their obligation. Second, third, fourth year, they graduate, receive their diploma. In essence, everyone has worked off their obligation. They owe nothing and can either stay here with us or go wherever they want.
And the work obligation is akin to hard labor, 12 hours a day, in a harmful and health-threatening production, without weekends or sick leave.
Their schedule is very strict. It looks like this. They study and work from 9 to 9 every day for 4 years. Here, 2 days a week, they study here. or how to put it. They do have weekends or no, but actually they have corporate tournaments, sports events, and essentially there's no time to waste on nonsense. They come here and they simply have no choice.
Kremlin propagandists and the Alabuga administration don't even try to particularly hide what their applicants will be doing 24/7. Instead, they emphasize that you can earn quite well this way. Money is the main motivator in this entire Kremlin scheme.
Our country is currently in a rather interesting position. We need to replace foreign products as much as possible. There are a lot of goods that are, in principle, very easy to produce, but for some reason, we buy them from abroad, sending huge amounts of money there, whereas we could establish production here and keep such huge sums of money within our country.
But it seems that money no longer motivates Russian youth. After the recent drone raid on the production workshops in Alabuga, none of the locals want to go on shifts anymore. Rumor has it that if this continues, the Kremlin will soon run out of means to terrorize peaceful Ukrainian cities at night.
Finding hundreds of people in the depths of Tatarstan who are willing to work 12-hour shifts performing monotonous manual operations in a hazardous weapons production environment under constant pressure from state defense orders and the threat of imprisonment for disclosing state secrets has proven to be a difficult task.
To attract at least some drone assemblers to Tatarstan, the Kremlin embarked on a large-scale program to rehabilitate the reputation of Alabuga. Paid bloggers were brought to the Putin Technopark to praise the local working conditions and high salaries across the internet. However, instead of advertising, it turned into complete negative publicity. After the release of several such videos, the number of people willing to go to the special economic zone only decreased.
People are ready to work hard, and such individuals are nurtured here. This is Alabuga Polytechnic, and this place is not for whiners and weaklings. It's quite tough here. For example, in the first 2 months of training, Alabuga Polytechnic invites several dozen professional paintball players and pits them against their own students. The game takes place in any weather, if snow, mud, slush, rain, or hail. No one cares at all if you're uncomfortable.
Meanwhile, the local dormitories have seen an increase in the black population. A Russian drone manufacturing plant has increased the hiring of girls from poor African countries by as much as 25 times. While the Russian Ministry of Defense lures local boys to the front as soldiers, the Kremlin promises naive residents of African villages mountains of gold just to get them to come to Alabuga.
A girl came with zero programming knowledge, and in the end, the instructors taught her, and now she can interact with all of this.
Women are promised Russian language lessons, a place in a dormitory for $44 a month with meals, and a salary starting from 860 conventional units. However, once there, African women are forced to continuously assemble drones in Alabuga under exhausting and dangerous conditions. They are also paid less than promised and are made to work with toxic substances without protective gear.
No matter what anyone says, Alabuga prepares you for adult life. And the guys working 12-hour shifts came here completely voluntarily. They want to earn a decent salary. They want to help their loved ones. They want to help their home country.
As a result, Interpol has already gotten involved in the matter. It has launched an investigation in the southern African country of Botswana regarding possible involvement in human trafficking by the Alabuga Star program, which recruits women aged 18 to 22 for work in Tatarstan. We can only hope that the investigation will be swift, after which another of Putin's operations will finally be shut down. And in the Russian Federation, there will be no one left to assemble the Kremlin's weapons of terror.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Meanwhile, the CIA confirmed the death of a top official's son who died fighting in Russia's war against Ukraine. The CIA said it was 21 years old Michael Gloss, but did not mention which side he fought for. I'll tell you, he had a signed contract with Russia's army. The agency also said the family suffered a personal tragedy and that Michael struggled with mental health problems. Ukraine is fighting for freedom. Support independent Ukrainian journalism so we can keep telling you the truth about this war. Click the link down in the description below and become our sponsor. Together to victory. On Saturday, the Vatican hosted the funeral of Pope Francis. But what caught the world's attention even more was the meeting between Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and US President Donald Trump. The two leaders spoke for just 15 minutes, but in a very friendly, informal setting, sitting less than a meter apart. After the meeting, Zelensky said this.
Meetings in the Vatican and Rome confirmed that our partners understand what is happening. Ukraine is ready to move as quickly as possible in diplomacy. We agreed 47 days ago to the American proposal for an unconditional ceasefire. And then we gave the Russians our own proposals to stop striking civilian objects, at least this. But they and Moscow respond with checkers, missiles, artillery, and new curtains.
It seems President Trump is starting to better understand the situation after his talk with Zelensky and after a fresh Russian missile attacks. Trump posted this. There was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas, cities and towns over the last few days. It makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along. It has to be dealt with differently, through banking or secondary sanctions. Maybe. Some doubts are still there. But one thing is clear. Putin will provide all the evidence of his lies himself. But only question is, how many more lives will it cost? This week is crucial for negotiations on ending the war in Ukraine. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said this live on NBC. According to Rubio, Ukraine and Russia are now closer to peace deal than at any point in the last 3 years. This week will show whether the US really wants to be part of the peace process.
We need to start, I think this is going to be a very critical week. This week is going to be a really important week in which we have to make a determination about whether this is an endeavor that we want to continue to be involved in, or if it's time to sort of focus on some other issues that are equally, if not more important in some cases. But we want to see it happen. There are reasons to be optimistic, but there are reasons to be realistic, of course, as well. We're close, but we're not close enough.
No pressure, of course, just another crucial week. No, seriously. Remember, last week was decisive as well. 10 days ago, after the Paris talks, Rubio said there were just a few days, not weeks, left to America to make up its mind. Back then, he also said this.
But we're not going to continue to fly all over the world and do meeting after meeting after meeting if no progress is being made. So if they're serious about peace, either side or both, we want to help. If it's not going to happen, then we're just going to move on. We're going to move on to other topics that are equally, if not more important in some ways, to the United States.
Since then, nothing's really changed. Ukraine still wants peace. Russia still kills civilians, destroys cities, and targets infrastructure. How many more decisive weeks do we need? Feels like cognitive dissonance. Russia clearly wants war, and America is still searching for another angle. Maybe you understand why they are still looking for any sign of Russia's readiness to stop. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's figure this out together. Meanwhile, let's see what Russia calls an unconditional ceasefire. Here's Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
President Putin said, ceasefire, yes, but we want the guarantees that the ceasefire would not be used again to beef up Ukrainian military, and that the supply of arms should stop.
Ukraine accepted on March 11th that idea of a U.S. brokered ceasefire without preconditions. You're saying the preconditions are a negotiation to end something else?
No, it is not a precondition. It is the lessons learned.
Oh, by the way, they also demand Ukraine gives up NATO membership, recognize Crimea as Russian, hangs over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, and many more. Lots of conditions for an unconditional ceasefire, right? Make your own conclusions. That's it for today. Thank you for staying with us. We read your comments and we feel your support. Strength to our defenders. Glory to Ukraine. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you soon.